Congressman, we hear you are in the state of Florida right now. It's got to be good to be back in the Sunshine State. Donald Trump will be speaking live from Mar-a-Lago in just a few minutes. Any idea what he's going to say?
He's probably going to say, "I told you so," and that these people are crazy. Look, Benny, this is what these states were doing was insane. Everybody knows it was dumb, but this is where the radical left has taken us. There was a time where we could disagree. We could call each other names. It could get really tough. It could be barn burner conversations and debates, but they've gone to a whole new extreme. They have turned the judicial system on its head because they truly believe they're saving the country, but what they're really doing is destroying the country. And so these people got to be stopped. And so I'm very happy that the Supreme Court 9-0 ruled that y'all are crazy. Stop the foolishness. The only body who's going to say that somebody can't be on a ballot is Congress. That is the right decision.
Yeah, and Donald Trump was tried in Congress, right? And he was acquitted. I mean, this seems like the system worked. Am I missing something here?
Well, look, if you're a radical Democrat, the system never works until you get your outcome. And that's the way they view everything, Benny. It's not just about President Trump. It's about how they look at what the EPA decides to do. It's how they look at banking regulations. It's how they look at energies, thinking that, oh no, wind turbines and solar panels, they're going to solve everything. But when you actually look into the details, you realize that solar panels are dirtier than natural gas. Wind turbines have killed more people than nuclear power plants have. And so this is the problem for the insane left. These are the people who would say that you got to support Palestine, the Palestinians above all else, even though it was Hamas who was elected by the Palestinians in Gaza that perpetrated one of the greatest atrocities in the modern era, definitely in the last 100 years. And so this is the stuff that you're dealing with these people. So they got to be defeated. You can't reason with them. You got to be defeated. And that's it.
We saw sort of the rally cry this weekend from Donald Trump talking about Laken Riley, speaking of sort of the horrors that are homegrown or home imported into our nation. Obviously, the death of the nursing student just north in Georgia. This is horrific. Donald Trump using this as a rally cry to say these policies are insane. And now Laken's family sort of getting into it and saying our daughter should be here right now. These are policies that killed our daughter. And that's a powerful message, obviously, and a story that's happening around the country. How do you see that progressing as we head into the November election? People seem to be waking up right now, and more importantly, Byron, every single morning there's some new horrible bit of news we got to cover with a criminal alien that comes in and devastates the life of an American.
Well, first, look, to Laken Riley's family and to the family of everybody else who's been lost. We usually talk about senseless violence. This doesn't need to actually happen. If the federal government led by Joe Biden and the radical Democrats actually followed the law, we wouldn't even be here. So my heart and my prayers definitely goes out to them because this all could have been avoided. But you're dealing with people in Joe Biden, in these nutty Democrats who truly believe this is the best thing for our country, and it's a flat out lie. I think that this issue of immigration is here to stay. It's not going to go anywhere. It's the number one issue in our country. It has surpassed the economy. And usually the economy is always the number one issue. It is now border security and immigration because people, no matter what your politics are looking at the situation and saying, they're saying something real simple. They're like, look, we care. We want people to have an opportunity at the best life ever, but you cannot flood our streets with illegal immigrants. You just can't do it. We don't have the capacity. And now when we find out that in Venezuela, the knucklehead leader down there is emptying his prisons and some of these people are ending up in the streets of New York, the streets of Georgia, the streets of Chicago, etc., it's only going to lead to more of these tragedies. We have to have a major change in leadership. We're going to have to deport a lot of people, send them back to their countries, whether Venezuela or any other country wants them or not, they're getting dropped back because that's the type of consistent, dedicated leadership you got to have in a country if America is truly going to live up to all of its ideals, all of its ability, and our people can thrive.
Maybe you can calm some of the nerves in the audience because we regularly cover how Paul Ryan promised to build the wall and didn't get it done. How Mitch McConnell said they'd be there for Trump and didn't get it done. And Donald Trump was handed a Republican Congress and a Republican Senate, and we couldn't even get the wall because it was too expensive, right? And there's still hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine to protect their border, nothing for our own. And so many people saying, like, how do we get a Congress that, when Donald Trump comes back in the office, how do we get a Congress that actually stands aside Trump and delivers? Because, as you just said, deporting a bunch of people, that's going to be one hell of a fight.
Well, look, let me just tell you, there's some things I'm not going to say right now, Benny. But the conversations internally in the House and even in the Senate are, what are we going to do when Donald Trump comes back? And I think what definitely happened back in 2016, 2017 is they weren't prepared to do the job in that Congress. We're making sure that does not happen again because, look, to be blunt, I think we got one shot at this. We have one opportunity to make sure that we get our country back on track in every way possible. It's not just immigration and border security. It's our financial system. It's sound money. It's cutting spending. It's foreign policy. We have a lot of work to do in a short amount of time. We got one moment in time to get it right. And I think that we're marshaling all those resources on the Hill to be prepared for the 47th president of the United States.
So you're saying that they just weren't prepared. I mean, I guess that you could almost.
I'm not just saying it, Benny. It's true. Like, they were not. Listen, let me just cut straight with you.
Please.
Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell didn't think Trump was going to win, and they were not prepared. You know, for my colleagues on Capitol Hill, it's great to have majorities, but you got to do something with them. If you don't do something with a majority, in my opinion, you don't deserve to keep a majority. And so that's the pressure that I put on my colleagues, that a lot of other members are putting on, because we don't just want to run for office and be members of the House or members of the Senate and have a cool pen and go give speeches. We actually want to get something done. And so I think that that's going to be the mission ahead for Speaker Johnson or whoever the next Senate majority leader is going to be, because I think we're going to take the Senate as well. The mission is going to be about getting the job done, not about worrying about the Sunday shows or worrying about, you know, some cocktail party in D.C. It's about getting the job done for the American people.
I have a final question for you, Congressman, and this is a theory that the show has running right now as we go through the news cycle and sort of pick up the breadcrumbs. It does seem like the left has done everything that they possibly can. It's not worked. It's all fallen to pieces. And now there is this move to containment of Donald Trump. The Donald Trump presidency of 2024. And there seems to be sort of a very, like, below the surface, like, this guy's going to win. There's nothing we can do to stop it. And now it's time to, like, try and kneecap him again. Do you see that sort of metastasizing right now in Washington, D.C.? Do you see sort of like depression on the Democrat side, that they have properly failed? And how do you prevent them from pulling a Russiagate 2.0?
So, I mean, they're not at their best right now. I will say that they're not at their happiest, which is a good thing for America. But look, what we got to be able to do, and let's be very clear, we have to use every tool at our disposal to make sure that they don't try to stonewall, slow walk what's going to happen, you know, when Donald Trump wins and comes back in 25. Like, we got to make sure none of that occurs, and so, or limit it really to the best of our abilities. So it's going to mean that we're going to have to take some tough stances, and that's fine. That's what we got to do. And we can't be worrying about apologizing for it or worrying about being blamed for it, because the left never apologizes. They're never worried about blame. They're full speed ahead every single time. We got to do the same. Essentially, you got to meet force with force, politically speaking, of course. And so that's what we're prepared to do. I think when it comes to the administration and when it comes to some maneuverings in the Senate, the next majority leader in the Senate has to have, in some respects, a Nancy Pelosi mindset, which is, we're coming here to accomplish the agenda. There is nothing else that matters. And I think if that's kind of the mindset that we have out of the next Senate leadership for Republicans, combined with that in the House, we're going to accomplish a lot. And the country is going to be changed in a dramatic way for it.
Just a really quick follow-up there. What's going on in the Senate leadership? And it seems like there's some pretty interesting moves. Rand Paul people are beginning to drop that name as somebody who would wish to be leader. Have you heard anything? Rick Scott, a great senator from Florida, obviously someone that you know and work with, joined the show last week to talk about it. Right. He was singing. Oh man, I've never seen him so happy. Mr. McConnell's resigning. I mean, that guy was whistling. how's that shaping up? That's obviously is hugely consequential for what the House does in DC.
Well, look, I think what's really going to shape this is that the Senate Republicans haven't had new leadership in 15 years. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be an entire new way to look at Senate Republicans. I think that the additions you've had over the last several cycles, Katie Britt, Tommy Tuberville, obviously Rick Scott came in a couple of years ago, JD Vance, you have a whole new crop of guys, different new mindsets in the Senate that's going to have to be reflected in the leadership. And so, I'm excited to see what comes. I think it's going to be a really good thing for the Republican Party overall, because, look, Mitch McConnell, there are things I disagreed with him on. There are things that he did a good job on. I'll give him credit for that. But we need a conservative leader in the Senate. We need somebody who's going to be mission-minded and agenda-minded at all times. And I think that kind of leadership is going to bode well for the Senate. It'll actually make the job easier in the House, and it'll actually help President Trump be able to accomplish the agenda. What I'm going to tell you is, I think it's going to be a wild ride for the Senate. They haven't done this in a long time. But what I'm really counting on and hoping on is that you have about 25 to 30 really tough, strong, America First members of the Senate, that they hold the line to make sure that the leadership reflects their values, their interests, and what's going to be best for the country.
Yes. Uniparty in panic on life support, and Mitch McConnell obviously stepping aside, opening the way for a Republican to represent us for the first time in my adult life. You said 15 years. Yeah. I mean, we haven't had a Republican actually representing us in the Senate for a very, very long time. We're very excited about it. Final thing, because I have asked you before, Friday was a nightmare day for Fani Willis. You've come on this program to talk about Fani Willis before. Your takeaway thoughts? Things are not looking good.
Man, the judge just needs to do the right thing and remove her from the case. Like, what she's done is unethical, and then she got caught in it. She lied to the court. She's got to go. It's that simple. And so I think that's what the judge is going to do. He's going to remove her, going to remove, obviously, Nathan Wade. He's gone. I think that goes without saying. Then the question is really going to become, does the rest of the Fulton County office want to do this? Because I don't really think they do. I think this was Fani Willis's deal to try to put herself in position to try to run for governor or whatever she wanted to do in Georgia. I mean, she was going to lose anyway, but that's what she's trying to do. So I think that's what's going to happen. We'll see in a couple of weeks. I think that's what the judge said. He's going to come back in a couple of weeks and give his ruling. But that RICO case should have never been brought. I mean, the thing is just, Benny, it's just crazy. In America, you're allowed to contest elections. That's the thing that candidates are allowed to do. It happens all the time. For it to be akin to John Gotti, I mean, come on, give me a break. The lady was just trying to get headlines. But when you're messy, Benny, and this is a rule for everybody, when you're messy, things don't work out for you.
Jim Jordan, your colleague, going after Fani Willis in Congress. Should we expect motion on that? You are allowed to contest election. You're not allowed to embezzle money, federal funds, and then use them for lavish vacations on yourself and then fire whistleblowers. That's what your colleague Jim Jordan is looking at on a committee that you sit on, actually. So
no, and Jim is right to do that. Glad for his leadership. He's right to do that. We're going to get to the bottom of this thing because you just can't have it, man. Look. Politics is politics. If you want to disagree, disagree. If you have a legitimate disagreement, okay, I can live with that. I'm an American. Look, everybody's got families. We got disagreements in families. You're going to have disagreements in politics. But what you can't do is turn the law on its head for political retribution. Because if you do that, you're a third world country. And if you're a third world country, you can't have a great economy. You can't have a great building better school systems, having flourishing companies. You can't have a situation where families get to just, enjoy life and build businesses and create wealth. You're too busy worrying about if somebody's going to come after you or they're going to take your property away. That's not what this country is founded upon. That stuff's got to be stopped immediately. And if it means that we got to knock people off their pedestals like a Fani Willis to make sure that happens, so be it.
Yeah. God bless you, Congressman. We certainly hope that Big Fani takes a pounding in Congress, and we look forward, sir, to your work there. Godspeed.
The fact that you said that with a straight face, Benny, oh my gosh. Good being with you, my man.